Astral projection, is it actually real? Does it actually happen? Let's talk a little bit about that. Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot, it's me Matt here, and today we're talking astral projection. In particular, I want to ask the question, is astral projection actually real? So, when we talk about astral projection being real, we either mean one of two things. We either mean, does it actually happen? Is it a real experience? Have people actually done it? To which I can answer yes, because I have done it before, and countless other people have done it, and you can find their stories everywhere. So yes, it is a real experience. That part we know. If you haven't experienced it before, you might not know that. But that part I at least know from my own experiences. Now the second part of this is it real as in the sense, are the things that you are experiencing through astral projection something real, something external, something that isn't just, a dream? And this is a really good question and something that we haven't been able to prove just yet. You see, lucid dreaming, just like astral projection, was seen as a bit of a weird thing not too long ago. For quite some time, when someone told someone else that, they were able to lucid dream, be conscious in their dreams, other people would look at them and just think they were lying, think they were making it up, think that that's impossible unless, they'd had experience themselves. And science hadn't, verified the existence of lucid dreaming. It only happened that some researchers came up with the idea of actually taking someone, getting them to have a lucid dream, and in their lucid dream, getting them to actually respond and deliver a message to the researchers as a way of proving that they were lucid. Now the problem was actually being able to do this, because this is obviously quite hard, because this person is asleep and they're in sleep paralysis, so they can't move, they can't talk. So how are they going to tell the researchers that they're having a lucid dream? Well, they thought of something, and that is while you're in REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, the stage of sleep where you have your dreams, including your lucid dreams, your eyes are always moving about and they're not actually frozen in place. That's why they move about so rapidly, because when you're looking around in dreams, you're actually looking around with your real eyes as well. So they thought of this, they thought, hey, why don't we actually use that? And they got the participants to actually move their eyes back and forth in a certain pattern when they were lucid in a dream. And they did this, and they found that the participants actually did this, proving that in fact these people were conscious at the time and able to do the task that was set to them, which meant that lucid dreaming was real. We finally had evidence of it. Now with astral projection, this hasn't quite been the case, because the thing with astral projection is we don't just have to verify the experience that someone is having it, we also have to try and verify that they are seeing real things when they are having these experiences. Because otherwise, it can just be classified as a kind of subset of dream. So how do you go about this? Well, there have been several, attempts at experimenting with astral projection, and the normal way that they've gone about this is, the way that you would think. Think about it right now. If you wanted to prove that such a thing as an out-of-body experience was real and possible, what would you do to prove it? So you've probably thought one of two different things. Now the first thing that some people think of is get the person to somehow interact with something while they're out of their body. Get them to move an object, get them to make the blinds start swinging back and forth or something like that. And this has been tried, but the thing is, do we know if someone is capable of doing that? If we're assuming that you're actually leaving your body and that you're actually, visiting this place or whatever, does that actually mean that you can affect anything, or are you just seeing it? Maybe you can't, move things or affect things like that. So if you can't, then that experiment is useless and doesn't tell us anything. So then you have the second type of experiment, and that is actually retrieving some verifiable information during the experience. So for example, you could put a bit of paper with a number on it, and this is what some people did. They put a bit of paper with a number on it in a separate room. They got the person to project through into the other room, read the paper, come back, and then try and tell it to the researcher. Now, there is a bit of a problem with this, and this is actually the main reason that I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to suggest a potential improvement to this. I'm not a scientist, so my idea might be completely rubbish, but I just had an idea for how we could experiment with this more, and further this experiment. So anyway, this experiment where you fly to the next room or whatever and look at the piece of paper, you would think this would be great. If out-of-body experiences are real, then surely a person could just leave their body, go there, check the note, come back, report it back, and we know if it's real or not. If they get the wrong number, then obviously it must not be real. Except, this goes against everything that we've been told about astral projection from people who have been doing it for thousands of years. Because the people who have been doing it for thousands of years say that when you astral project, there is not just one place where you end up. there is a real-time zone of sorts where you end up in what appears to be the real world with real people doing their everyday things and, you know, seeing real events. You know, if you go somewhere in the real-time zone, you are perhaps seeing real events. But then there are also very, very close duplicates that seem exactly like the real world, but everything is a little bit different. Items are placed differently. People are, you know, asleep when they're actually awake. You see things that aren't happening in the real world. And then there are also the other astral planes where you end up in somewhere completely different, not even remotely like the real world. But this raises a problem, because if there are all these different planes where some of them, or one of them, represents the actual real world, and then there are other ones that are similar but not quite, then what happens when someone tries to astral project to see that note in the other room? Well, if he ends up in the right one, if he ends up in the real world, the real time zone, and he goes through, then perhaps he gets the number and he comes back and he gives it to the researcher. But then what about the other times when he thinks he's in the real world, but he's actually in a very, very near duplicate of it, and he goes through, gets the wrong number and comes back? Well, now the researcher sees all these times when he's got the wrong number and just assumes that, you know, it was a lucky guess when he got it right the one time. So this, to me, seems like a kind of useless way to test something if astral projection works the way we assume it does with, you know, all of these different zones that you can end up in. Because if that is the way that astral projection works, then that is a completely poor test that's never going to prove that it works. So how would you go about this? Well, the way that I thought about it is, if there is a real-time zone where you can actually see things really as they are in the real world, as they are happening, and if it is possible to reach that through astral projection, then when you're in that zone, you would be able to verify more than just one bit of information. So stay with me here. What if, rather than looking at, you know, whether they were successful, what percentage of times they were successful, what if they looked for times where they were successful so many times in a single session? So for example, you could have a number on the wall, you could have a painting on the wall as well, you could have a word written down and some other things, like 6 or 7 different things all in the next room. And the idea would be that the person would go through and they would note down all 7 things. So if they were in if they ended up in, you know, a duplicate of the real-time zone and it wasn't the real-time zone, then none of it would be accurate, or maybe one piece would be accurate. Whereas if they ended up in the real-time zone and you really can see everything as it is in the real world, then they would be able to get, you know, 6 or 7 things right. Even if they only got, you know, 6 or 7 or however many items you choose in there right 1 out of 100 times, the fact that they got them all right that one time is, you know, tremendous odds, and that would be statistically significant, and that would basically prove that this works, that there is something to it, and that this deserves further exploration. Now, I don't know if this is possible. I am, you know, a beginner at astral projection, so perhaps it is that even if you're in the real-time zone, there are always details shifting and stuff, and so you could never get all 6 or 7 right. Maybe that's the case, and maybe we need to look at other ways of exploring this to see if it's real. But if it is true that there are certain zones where you can see things exactly as they are happening, then this seems to be the way to go about it. Look for sessions where you are able to get 100% accurate information, and then look specifically at those sessions. Because, you know, those are the sessions where you can reasonably assume that this person is looking at the real world and not just some, you know, altered version of it. Now, those are just my thoughts. Perhaps you have some ideas. What do you think of my idea? Do you think it's rubbish? Do you think maybe it's a good way to go with this research? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And anyway, on this subject in general, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think astral projection is? Do you think that you're actually leaving your body? Do you think that perhaps information is coming to you and you're experiencing it inside your body? Do you perhaps think that it's just another type of dreaming? I personally don't know. I haven't had enough experience to really say. I have an open mind enough that I could very much believe the fact that you actually do leave your body. That to me is very believable, because I have had experiences that to me suggest that we are all interconnected, that we are not as separate as we believe we are, and that we are not our bodies. I've had those experiences, and so I believe that it is definitely a possibility. However, I haven't had the experiences of astral projection that have confirmed to me and said without a doubt that I'm actually, you know, leaving my body behind. So it could be something like a dream. Obviously, I separate it from, say, a dream or a lucid dream, because they are entirely different feeling experiences. They're entirely different experiences, but it could be like another subset of dream, a special kind of dream, for example. You know, I can't deny that. I haven't, you know, proved or disproved that. The other thing is, it could be that information is coming to you. Now I will eventually make some videos about this, but something I haven't ever talked about on my channel is that I actually experimented with something called remote viewing some time back. And those of you who are skeptics and who are, rational thinkers are obviously going to be looking at your screens like, what the hell? You normally talk some sense on this channel where you're talking about something like remote viewing. I approached it with a skeptical mind when I tried it, and I was amazed by the results. I will talk more about that in separate videos, but anyway, the experiences that I had with that, I can't explain them. I can't think of any rational explanation for them, and so I have come to the conclusion that perhaps there is some way that we are able to obtain information from a distance. And if that is the case, then that is also a possible explanation for astral projection. Perhaps we do not leave our bodies, but things come to us. Just another theory. Again, like I said, I don't have the answers, I'm not experienced enough, and this is actually why I'm trying to learn to project now, to actually have regular projections and explore and experiment for myself. I want to take a scientific approach to this and try and determine exactly what this is and why this happens. And perhaps once I get to that level, perhaps I'll involve some of you guys and we can come up with some way to experiment with this and learn about this phenomenon. So anyway, that's been a little about the subject of if astral projection is real or not. There's no definitive answer that I'm giving you guys, but I'm giving you some thoughts on how we can go in trying to prove it, and all the possibilities of how real it could be in different ways and so on. And once again, I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, so post those down there. If you like the video, remember to subscribe over there. And if you want to keep watching, check out the video that's linked on screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.